All right. I think we're live. Awesome. Welcome to week 3 of Paint by the Pints virtual edition. We are so excited to be back with you guys again. As we saw last week, we have a lot of people doing the painting tonight, but we also have people that are kind of starting it tonight, finishing it tomorrow. That's totally fine. The link is going to be live for you guys over the next couple of weeks and months, really. So to get started, as we always say, we want to see what your setup looks like at this moment. Are you guys sitting by yourself? Are you sitting with your whole family? Are you doing this over FaceTime with friends and family in Ireland, in America? We had Switzerland. As we go, we want to hear from you. So we are on Paint by the Pints on Instagram and Facebook, and as well on the live chat on YouTube. You can write in your comments. This is completely interactive. We want to hear from you guys. And as we're going, we're going to be kind of giving you guys feedback, both if you have questions on here, we'll answer it on the YouTube stream, but then also Jill, my artist, and I, we have all the questions ready to go, and we can answer any of them as we go. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Jill. Jill, say hello.
Hello, everyone.
So Jill came up with this gorgeous painting, and as for the last 2 weeks, we actually pre-recorded the actual painting parts. That way we could focus on kind of getting through some of your questions. I know one thing that we thought was hilarious last week is we kind of told everyone, if you don't already, go grab your hair dryer. You probably don't even know where it is because no one's done their hair or makeup or anything in the last couple of weeks, and that's completely okay. But if you have a hair dryer, go grab it. It'll help you dry your painting out as you're going. And if not, as I have a canvas here, you literally can whack it in the air, get some air to it, and it'll dry quickly. Acrylic paint, especially if you're using acrylic, it will dry quite quickly. It's a water-based paint, but it also has a bit of plastic in it, so it dries really hard, quick. And as well, I'm trying to think what else. Oh, and an exciting thing for next week, if you haven't already, send us your pictures because we are going to start a series. We want to know a bit more about everybody in isolation. So who are you painting with? Are you joining with people from afar? I know people who are on a date night right now, but not even in the same house. And that is absolutely romantic and magical. Last week and the week before, we had a couple that shares one canvas and a bottle of wine, and it's just literally the cutest thing. So we are getting all these stories in. We want to share them with you guys because they're actually the cutest thing ever. It'll completely lift your mood and your spirits throughout the week. So what we're going to ask you to do is, as you're doing things, go ahead and either email us at paintbythepints@gmail.com, or you can even just message me on Instagram and tell us your little story about, who are you doing this with and why, and, anything else you want to know. So without further ado, I think we'll get started. Are we ready? Yep, we're about 10 minutes in. Perfect. All right. So Jill, we're going to put on the painting part of it, and let's get started.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Okay.
So as always, we're going to start with our blue, yellow, red, white, and black paint. But this time I'm setting up a little bit differently. I'm putting 2 splotches of blue. We're going to have 2 splotches of red. And then we're going to do 2 splotches of yellow in specific areas on my palette because we're going to be pre-mixing our colors. And then that way we can paint a bit quicker and not have to slow down to mix our paint. And then I've actually put 3 splotches of white as well, just so we don't contaminate the colors. And then 1 little splotch of black. So the first set of colors that we're actually going to be mixing is green. And we're going to be making 3 shades of green and 3 shades of purple, 3 shades of orange. So to make the light green, you just use a little bit of blue with a lot of yellow. And then add more blue to that yellow to make a nice medium green. And then use a lot of blue for a nice dark green.
I love the way you have this laid out as well, Jill, mostly because people can see how small the, pile of paint you need is. You don't need a huge amount. You just need it to be kind of in a small concentrated area and just pile it up.
Yeah. Now to make the violet, I've said it so many times, red is such a strong color, so you really don't need a whole lot of red. But if you do end up using a lot of red, you can add more blue to it. And the violet gets really kind of dark, so it's kind of hard to tell sometimes the color. So if you just add a small dot of white to it, that will help bring out that color so you can really see that true color up to it.
The one thing I also note when we're doing this is if you don't like the color while it's on your palette, you're probably not going to like it on your canvas. So play around with the colors. If you're not loving it or if they're really dark, don't be afraid to add a little bit more white or clean off your brush entirely and kind of go at it again. Start over. Don't be afraid because you might not get it the first time. You might not get the color you're looking for, and that's okay.
Absolutely. And even if you do like the color on your palette and you put it on your painting and it just doesn't feel like it fits, you can always paint over top of it. So
exactly.
Painting is so forgiving. So yeah, here we're making the orange. We're going to lighten that orange color with the bit of white. So you'll have a light orange, a medium orange, and then like a dark reddish orange, almost pure red.
This is a nice way to kind of color map as well because looking at your big black blank canvas, it's very daunting, I find. So if you're able to kind of find the center, make a big rectangle essentially in the center, everyone's able to do that, and you're just basically using your lighter of the oranges.
Yeah, in this case, we're going to actually have like a little bit of a triangle shape to it. So we want the left side to be smaller than the right. And you can you can break up that solid yellow by putting big splotches of white in it. You can put a couple brush strokes of the dark red in it. And then if you just quickly brush over it and soften those lines, they end up looking like just wispy clouds. It's really beautiful. And now we're going to start transitioning from our orange into like an evening sky. So we're going to add some of that violet purple on top of it. Just make sure that your orange paint is still really wet and just add a small amount of purple at a time.
So Jill, I'm actually going to pause it for a second because we have a few questions. So first question is, which brush size are you using? You small, medium, or large?
I'm using a large brush.
Yes, and the reason why you'd use a large brush for this is you'll be able to cover a lot of space with one brush. And then as well with the color mixing, we had a question around that from Lisa. So if you're looking to mix your colors, Jill actually started with a few different, and you can even drag back to the beginning of this video. You can always go back and reference it. She started with a few different piles of color and then dragged one into the next. So it's really easy way to get each of the colors kind of built up that you're looking for. So you have mostly yellow with a tiny bit of blue for your really light green. You have even maybe yellow and blue, and then you have mostly blue, tiny bit of yellow on your top green on the top left there, and then in the middle it's your purple. So it's going to be a little bit of red because it's very bossy color, and lots of blue. And then you're going to create different shades of it with adding in a bit of white. And then on the side, again, we're just doing red and yellow, and it's going to give you different shades of orange. And so if you are still kind of getting caught up, some people are probably still mixing their colors, and that's totally fine. Feel free to pause this at any moment. But as you can see, Jill's literally just gone in with her big brush, did a straight orange line directly through the center of the canvas. And now we're kind of building up where that sky will be on top of the mountains. And you'll see as we go, it's important that as we put the paint on the canvas, we want it to be dry. So once I unpause this, we're going to just play it through so you could get the whole sky in. Because Jill was just saying how it's really important that the colors are wet when we're painting it, and you can add a tiny bit of water to your brush if you need to. But if the colors aren't wet, they won't blend properly. So we're going to go ahead and press play again, and we'll be ready to go. And Jill, I think last week you spoke a little bit about flicking the wrist to get that blending motion, and I think that really helps.
Yeah, if you just keep moving your brush back and forth, and you're not scrumbling it in, you're not digging the brush into your canvas, you're just using a light feather touch, and you're just constantly moving that brush back and forth and up and down, just gently pushing that paint and softening those lines. Now I picked up a little bit of that medium to light violet, and I'm just putting another color on top of that, and it's almost like the sun is setting. So you've got the nice beautiful orange sky, it's turning into the violet that's going to blend into the blue, and then the top left corner is going to be a dark violet. So here's where the blue comes in. I think I realized that there was still orange in my brush, and blue and orange are complete opposites on the color wheel. And if you mix those in too much, then it starts turning brown, and I didn't want to do that. So if that starts happening, just quickly clean out your brush and just start with a clean brush. So yeah, we're still working in the blue. And I do apologize for going quickly. But this doesn't have to be neat. And the faster you work, the I'm sorry. The faster you work, the paints don't necessarily dry, so it's easier to mix and blend, and just use nice long brush strokes.
It's cool. It's a cool effect that you create in the sky as well by doing like the really nice light color and then going in with a darker color on your brush. And you can see at the corner, you kind of do the darkest part of the sky. It gives it really nice depth. And so I think you've just added just some straight blue, blending it in a bit more.
Yeah, to make some more purple, because once we're done with the sky, we're going to start working on the mountains, and we need to make 4 shades of violet. So we need a really dark purple. We need a somewhat dark, and then a medium dark, and then a light, or a medium purple, and then a light purple, almost a lavender. And what we're going to start with is actually the farthest mountain that's away from us is going to be the lightest purple. And then we will make our way towards us with the darker shades, and then that will make the mountains appear that they are far away, and the darkest mountains are close. So with the lightest lavender, we're going to start on the left side of the painting, and we're going to overlap the orange, And it's just going to be, it's not a straight line because mountains aren't straight. It's just going to be a random zigzag across the page. Here's that hair dryer.
The hair dryer.
Still tacky.
All right, so I might actually pause it just for a second, Jill, just to give everyone a second to catch up on the sky. Because it is a lot. And I think mixing colors always takes me at least a very long time just to get colors I'm happy with. And then once I have my colors, actually having the confidence to put the brush on the canvas and not freak out, it takes a few minutes. So take your time. If at any point you're like, this is going quick, by all means, you can pause it. You can rewind the live stream. That's totally fine. Don't feel like you're rushed. And I can imagine there's hair dryers going all over Dublin right now, getting the sky nice and dry. That's great. And now's also a good chance for, if you haven't already, definitely share your kind of before pictures on Instagram, because we're going to start sharing them to our story as we go. We also got a few shout outs that I want to call out. Let's see. So we have Sharon in Killiney painting with her mother. Hello, Sharon. That's very exciting. Oh, and her cat's nice. We have, let's see. We have Ashley, Katie Ruth Lark painting along in Miller's Glen Swords. Very nice. You gotta help me out this Irish. Leisha? If I'm not saying it right, you gotta tell me. You gotta write in the chat, tell us how to pronounce it properly. That's awesome. So we have some people in swords. Let's see what else. One more. Park Sisters Legit FC. We're fitness bloggers. Awesome. Love it. We have everybody on here tonight. We have fitness bloggers, we have painters, we have kids, adults, moms, grandmas, everybody. I love it. So nice.
All these people from around the world coming here today.
Yeah. I see in the comments people are still mixing colors. That's totally fine. That is no problem at all.
Yeah, so for the first set of mountains, like I said before, it's the lightest lavender color. You want the thickness of the mountains to be about 1.5 to 2 inches thick. And what is that in centimeters for the Europeans? Because I'm American. Is that 6 centimeters? 3? Yeah, that's about 6 centimeters. And between every layer of mountain, I'm going to use the hair dryer to dry it off real quick. And yeah, it's just zigzaggy. There's no right or wrong on how to do this. So yeah, just a quick hair dryer. I'm just touching it to see if it's still tacky or if it's still damp. And then I will take my next shade. If you don't feel it's quite thickness.
So Jill, just so the people at home know, if the stream is skipping ahead, don't worry. It's probably everyone in our neighborhood watching and streaming Tiger King. But I think the internet is being a little hoppy tonight. So if anything hops, just please do let us know, and we'll repeat anything if it hops. Just let us know.
Yeah, my internet was terrible today because
I'd say it's homeschooling happening, but really I'd say it's more the Netflix happening. So
did you watch it? Because I did.
I'm only on episode 4, so if anyone has seen it, don't do any no spoilers in the chat, guys.
Oh my god, that's a train wreck.
Each go, and feel free to just pause.
Yeah, wave that baby. So now for the third layer of the mountains, it's just that next shade darker. And it's the same technique. It's just the zigzag up and down. You can actually lift it up to kind of overlap the next layer, which is fine. Mountains are various shapes and sizes. So the more variation you give it, the more fun and realistic it'll look.
Did you see on our chat we have Ashling, a doctor of 40 years, first time painting, taking the time today to unwind with Paint by the Pints, which is very cool. Super excited to see that. Well done. I can only imagine how geez, how brave you are. So fair play. That's awesome. I think we were saying it 2 weeks ago, but painting is either very relaxing for people or it's really stressful because you're trying to get it down perfect. And, you know, I think depends on the personality, I suppose, but some people really want to be perfect about it and others are kind of just lashing it on. It's kind of, it's the fun of the game.
Yeah, I get that. I am so particular about the way I paint, like with my oil paintings, and I can get stressed out about it, but it can be fun too. And when you're doing something like this, just be loose with it, just have fun with it. There's no mistakes with this.
Hairdryer's out again. Is this the most the most action the hairdryer gets?
Yeah, so far my hair's still wet from my shower this morning, so I literally didn't even bother drying it this morning.
We're all gonna have amazing glowing skin at the end of this. No makeup for so many weeks.
That is true. I have not worn makeup in a long time. And my roots are growing out. Like I haven't seen my roots or my original hair color in so long. I've been blonde for so long, and now it's like coming out dark brown, and I'm like, I don't know what this color is.
For everyone at home, if you didn't know from last week, Jill did the deep dive and dyed her hair bright purple. So it's pretty spectacular. If you go back to, I think it was last week's tutorial, you can see it. It's incredible. Yeah, definitely on the bucket list.
Well, now's the time to do it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm loving these stories. There's really some great setups. You guys have either some wonderful snacks prepared or like serious bartenders with like looks like a professional gin and tonic. We have lots of rosé, we have Prosecco. I'm currently having my drink out of my Open Gate Brewery glass because I miss our Guinness events there.
So do I.
Let's see. Oh, nice. I love seeing this. We have so many familiar faces as well. You guys are like tech wizards. We are like set up on HDMI cables. Everybody has us like on our flat screens TVs. I'd be watching it from my phone if we didn't have Stephen for tech support. Let's see.
So, for this fourth layer, if you haven't gotten to it yet, don't worry about it. To make it really nice and dark, I added just a little smidge black to that violet to really make it stand out. And now we're doing a quick hair dryer, and then we will move on to the green grass.
Oh, we're getting more pictures in. We have some pint-sized painters today doing a fantastic job. It looks like they've jumped ahead to the grass. That's great. No need to wait for us. If you're like, this lady's painting slow, let's keep going. Go for it. I love it. Oh, that's awesome. Who said you?
All right, so grass, we're getting started. I'm just starting with the medium green color just to kind of fill in that white. Then just fill in that white, just block in that color. And then we're going to do a quick road from the top of the green, just a little bit left of center, to the bottom right-hand corner. And as it comes up, I will discuss how to make the line straight. It doesn't have to be a straight line, but in case you wanted it to be a straight line, I actually use the handle of another paintbrush to help kind of just guide my hand to make a nice straight line. But yeah, so just quickly fill that in. There is nothing neat that needs to be about this part because we're going to layer more green on top of it. So this does not have to be perfect. This does not have to be clean. It's just a base layer. So yeah, so this part, like I said, the top of the green, just left of center is where the top of the road is going to be. I think I used the light green initially and a little bit of purple to give it a little bit of depth to it to really separate it from the grass. And it's going to mix in with the green that's already on the canvas that's still wet, and that's fine. And so the road far away is going to be very small. And then as it comes towards you, it's going to get wider.
So Jill, I'm going to pause it there for just a second.
Absolutely.
All right, because it gives us a chance to catch up for a second. We also had another shout out, I will say. It's from Geraldine, from Jer and Mike in Dublin. Wanted to say hi to Claire and Jono in London. Awesome. If you guys are painting kind of on FaceTime separately, definitely send us your story, and we want to hear all your stories. They were amazing last week and the week before. Like, I was almost I cry easily, I suppose, but I was like literally tearing up with some of the cute stories. I think that there's a couple that's separated just because of isolation, and so this is like their date night once a week that they get together and have have like a quote unquote normal evening just apart, which is really cute.
That is so cute.
So I think what we'll do is also I want to show you guys some of the stories that we're getting sent in from our Instagram. So if our IT wizard Steven can share them, if it'll cooperate tonight, you'll be able to see them on our screen. Let's see. You guys have some pretty amazing setups. All right, let's see. Oh, awesome. Love it. Oh, that was from last week. Nice. I saw you guys got a lot of great deliveries in just in the nick of time. Some Prosecco being put in the fridge. Love it. And these are like pretty professional setups. A lot of people have, oh, nice. The hairdryer out. I love, oh, wow. Professional art stands. That's like a serious tech setup. The newspaper, old trusty, can't go wrong. No one can get mad that you've made a mess then. Nice. That's a cool palette. Look at that. Look at the color.
It's nice.
Orla. Hello, Orla. We know Orla. Let's see. Ashley, same. Hey, Ashley. Ashley's painting over a rug. Very daring. I love it. Nice. Okay, the before. These colors are incredible. Oh, wow. That's some serious natural light coming in. Let's see. What is that beautiful strawberry daiquiri? That looked. Is that a strawberry daiquiri? I'm not even sure. That looked incredible. That's some serious cocktail wizards going on.
I'm so jealous.
We can do. How about we offer the paint event, and then they can do events on how to make the amazing mixed drinks that they're making. I think we're just spoiled, Jill. We get to go to Guinness and say, pour us a pint of Guinness, and then that's that. There's no mixing involved.
I know. I love tasting their new recipes that they have on tap all the time.
Yeah, and you know it's fun. The last time we went, I don't know if you remember, they were doing beer tail. What was it called? Beer cocktails, and it was literally had like a normal mixed drink that you'd know regularly, and it'd have like a dash of whatever they had on draft. So it'd be like a lager or like an IPA, and it sounds horrific, but it really worked.
I didn't try that.
Yeah, you have to try it. I think they even put a little prosecco in with some of them. Again, something that I was like, absolutely not, but not until you can't knock it till you try it. That's what I'd say. So we're gonna play the video again. So far Jill's just done the grass, and again, it wasn't anything neat. And then we are kind of just fine tuning our road. It's like a long triangle, really skinny at the top, and then a little bit wider at the bottom.
Yeah, just using a little bit of purple for that. Now for our next layer, and it's not really even grass at this point, we're just kind of painting in nice, big, chunky green brushstrokes to kind of create a shrub or a bush. And this whole left side section of the road is just going to be one gigantic bush or shrubbery, whatever you'd like to call it. So just grab your dark green and do nice, chunky circular motions. And again, there's nothing neat about this. You can just do it quickly and just kind of overlap your last paint stroke with your current paint stroke and just work your way down and across. When you get to the road, you want to overlap it just a little tiny bit because the bush is kind of closest to you, so it is going to be in front of that road, but you don't want to cover the road completely. So at this point, we took a bit of our medium green and we're just putting just globs of color here and there, not everywhere on top of that dark green, because that dark green kind of gives that bush some depth to it. The medium green is going to kind of pull some of the quote unquote the leaves, um, but just kind of give it some more dimension. And again, this is not a neat, tidy thing. You're just gonna tap, 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 and move on across, down and across your bush, just giving it some depth. And if you get a little bit of yellow in it, it's fine. It'll just add more dimension to that shrub.
I feel like this part takes so much patience, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's funny as well because as you're painting this part, I feel like if you have a bit of patience, it'll be awesome, but it does take time. And I always start with less is more. You could always take a literal step back. The amount of times we are at events and people are like, "Oh, you don't really like my painting," and I'll take the canvas away from them and I'll put it about 3 feet away, 4 feet away, and they're like, "Oh, wow!" And it's all about the perspective. So if you need pause, step back, have a look, see what kind of works, what doesn't, and then you can always add on more. And like you were saying in the beginning, paint is very forgiving, especially acrylic paint. You can always paint over it. If you're like, I totally messed up, I have a big black blob in the middle of the painting, no worries. Just keep going, paint over it, and start again. So I can see here you're kind of creating a deeper green.
Yeah. This is going to be for the right side, and it's the right side is kind of I've kind of pictured as being further away, so there's going to be less detail in that. So it's not going to be as chunky or as defined. So it's just about putting big chunks of color in it, and it's going to be definitely darker, and you're just kind of filling in that space.
And giving it that darker color will give it a like really nice perspective as well.
Yeah, and the trees are going to go there as well. So that having that darkness is going to really hold the trees down, and that's where this chunk of blue is going to be where the base of the trees are, which will give it a shadow and really ground those trees.
The hair dryer's out again. I love it.
This was really nice and thick. The paint was really thick.
Yeah.
So it needed a good hair.
So it looks like we got another shout out. I'm just trying to see what the name is. I always feel bad for, if you're at a graduation and the person has to read out all the names. Yeah. Even my own name, people say it. My name's Brittany, obviously, but I get called Bernie a lot, which is hilarious. But I'm kind of one of those. I'm like, yep, sure, Bernie works. That's great. Let's see.
Do you want to pause here because we'll let them finish up with the green, and then the next part is going to be that close up of how to do the trees.
Perfect. So I'm pausing it on your stunning hairdryer.
Ah, yes, the good old Remington. So what's coming up is I'm taking a step away from the actual canvas, and I'm going to do a close up onto a sheet of white paper and do a really nice close up so you can see the technique on how I did the trees. So if you are done with the grass, just pay attention to the technique of the trees, and then I'll talk our way through it as it comes up.
So while we're catching up, we have Serena from Laytown. Awesome. I love seeing these stories. This is brilliant. And if anyone missed it in the beginning, what we're going to be doing next week is sharing your actual story. So a lot of you, like I said, are in different places or with family or joining us for different reasons. We want to hear the story behind your Friday evening, what you're doing, why are you joining us, who are you joining us with. So send us either a picture or a quick little story. It's going to be kind of like humans of Paint by the Pints, if you will, our virtual Fridays and the story behind it, because there's some really gorgeous stories and I really want to highlight them. So please share them with us. We've already gotten a few on Instagram tonight, but keep them coming. And I also want to do a shout out to Anya and Cayman. They are joining us from their, I suppose, living room tonight, doing a brilliant job. I think last week a lot of people enjoyed hearing a bit about our Guinness adventures. Remember we were talking about the Guinness archives last week, Jill?
Yeah, I do remember.
This week I was actually thinking of sharing with you guys a bit about when we were at the Maximum Media, which runs her.ie and joe.ie. So a couple months ago, I think a year ago now, we took on this creative request because you're in a room of these great creative minds, and we were asked to paint their office dog, Lexi. So the team kind of ran around and we came up with Dog Ross instead of Bob Ross. We dressed their dog up with this cute little afro and, of course, a blue jean shirt, because what else would you be doing? And we had an amazing office event, and I think that was probably one of the highlights of last year for sure. But since then, Anya has become a boss lady, and she started her own company. So I'm actually I'll put her Instagram handle in, because if you're interested at all in learning more about social media, she's an expert in it, and she gives some tips and tricks around that. So it's definitely worth checking out, especially in these times when everyone's kind of looking to learn something, one or two new things. So shout out to Anya and Cayman. Let's see. Will we resume the video? Are we ready?
Yes, absolutely.
Cool.
Okay. So to start with the tree, you're going to paint the trunk, and the trunk is just a straight line, and you're going to start at the thinnest part of just the corner of the paintbrush, and you're just going to gently tap just little tiny squiggly lines, and as you work your way down, you're going to tilt the paintbrush away from the trunk and just gently tap just with the tip of that paintbrush.
So I think our our internet skipped for a second there. If anyone's like, why are we looking at a piece of paper? Jill's actually showing you how we're going to create this tree on a separate piece of paper just to give you a full view of it, because once you're kind of doing it over a dark background, it's really hard to see and show you guys. So she's literally practicing on like a side piece of paper. You could even do this on newspaper if you want, just to kind of get a sense of what it's going to look like, and especially like the brush stroke.
Yeah, because it was really hard to see it even on the dark background, for me whenever I was painting it myself.
Yeah.
And I wanted to make sure that the paintbrush was doing what I wanted it to do.
Yeah.
So
I actually might start
the
the tree
trees,
again, Jill, if that's okay, just to show them again,
yeah,
because
absolutely.
this part is important, obviously.
And layering it's really great too. So if you have the branches kind of out wider and then you kind of fill in the middle with shorter branches in a darker color or like a black, it really gives a nice dimension to those trees. So yeah, again, just very gently light tapping on the very corner of that paintbrush. And you don't want to push your paintbrush all the way on, you just want the tip. Now onto your canvas. I put 5 trees, and the tree that's in the center of your canvas towards the top part of the road, it's going to be very small. Um, Mine's about the length of add to that perspective of the trees being further away and coming towards you.
I think we lost you there for a second, Jill, but you're saying that the perspective has to be there and spaced out. So if you do, if you do a smaller tree, it's gonna look like it's really far away. It's always like the Father Ted joke. And if you do it a huge line, it's gonna look like it's closer up, much bigger.
Correct.
So she's done 5 different lines here, spaced them out pretty evenly. And again, with this, less is always more. Start with less lines, and you can always add in more if your painting kind of allows.
And then I just tap the branches in. You're start at the top, and then it's going to be very narrow, and then as you make your way down, it's going to widen out. Now I put a little bit of a light green in it just to kind of help define where the branches are, but I realized that's way too bright for the skylight. This is kind of like an evening setting, so you don't want your trees to be too bright. So I just toned that down with some bluish green. And then I started on the second tree. The same, just narrow at the top, and as you get towards the bottom, the ground, it's going to be wider. Filled in the center because I found that my trees were looking a little empty near the tree trunk. And then I tapped on a little bit of highlights on it just to define where the branches were, but you don't want too much, like I said, because this is a nice evening painting. It is really hard to see with that dark background, so I'm glad I did that on the white paper. You can add a little bit of black to your green too to darken it up.
We're getting some really brilliant videos in, especially everyone's getting very creative with their hair dryers. And I'm sorry for all the lads who are not in need of a hair dryer and don't have one. But everyone's getting really creative on how they're drying their pieces. I see we have Sam and Sorsha back for week 3. Their picture has week 1's painting in the background, week 2's picture in the background, and then in today they're painting together. Oh, and then we have a few painting assistants. One is a really gorgeous dog named Champ. That's Lauren's dog. Shout out to Lauren and cute little Champ. Love it. Keep these pictures coming. I think we also have Belle and a few other pups joining our stream tonight.
I kicked my dog out. Because he tends to make a lot of noise with his claws, and if I look at him, he'll wag his tail and just make the thumping noise. So he's probably not very happy with me right now.
I happily would have Rex. I think last week we had a few dogs barking in the background, exactly the same as we're like, oh, I'll just put them out in the other room. Hope they'll be quiet. It's probably one of my favorite events is the BYOD ones we do at MVP. I think now is like kind of the time where we're really missing going to our events, and the dog event is hilarious because you get in there, it's like every dog from a brand new puppy to like super old, hobbling in the door, and they're always the oldest dog's always kind of the boss of the room, even if it's a really small dog. So it's a great dynamic. I absolutely love it. We'll have to get Rex to one of the dog events for sure.
Yeah, I don't know if that's ever gonna happen because Rex he gets so overly excited. Like, I mean, he's a senior dog. He'll be 11 in June, but every time he sees another dog, he's just so excited. He can't contain himself. He's he has no control over his impulses, and he just wants to run and complete bull in a china shop. He would knock everything over just to get to everybody else and bark at everybody, and he's got this really loud, ferocious bark, which ends up scaring people, but he would never hurt a fly.
I feel like that's That's always the best though, especially while we're kind of in isolation. It's hard, it's definitely helps to have some loving little furry creatures around.
Yeah, he's the best. So now at this part, we are making some kind of a dark, like a dark red. This is going to, on the left side, it's the flowers are going to be a dark red because they're in the shadow of the trees, so they're not going to really get a whole lot brighter. And then we're just putting some dabs of dark red throughout the bush on the left side, and this is going to be the base of our flower. And they're not they're not a detailed flower. It's just chunks of color just to kind of break up that green. Um, and if you want to go into detail and make really detailed flowers, please go ahead. I was just, this is just going to be a fun, quick, easy painting. So I never really focused in on the details. Now for the flowers on the right side underneath the trees, I put just a couple little dabs of red in it, just to break up the darker colored red. And I put that same red on top of the shadows on the left side. And again, it's just chunks of color. There's not a defining petal, there isn't a defining shape. It's just the hint of the flower or the insinuation that there's a flower there. Um, so again, I've got the dark red, the medium red, and now we're making a soft pink color just for a couple little highlights. We don't want the same amount of that pink as the red because these are just the highlights of the light, and then adding a little bit more white to that for just an even slighter highlight, a brighter just chunk of color. And it's not even on every single one, and it's a smaller amount on all of them.
Jill, we're getting an insane amount of dog photos sent
Basically
to us, and I've never been happier. I'm like sitting here in dog heaven. This is amazing. We have to do a shout out to puppy Ruben. Ruben is looking very happy with his owner's painting.
Don't forget to sign your painting.
Exactly. So I might pause this then. Yeah. Is it? That is the end of the actual. Perfect. So we're gonna leave it there for a sec. Obviously everyone has to catch up for a few minutes anyways. And I want to share with you guys some of our Instagram photos because I just found somebody is using the most clever thing ever as an easel. I know over the last week, so last week we're trying to, of course, support local given everything going on. And so artmaterials.ie was giving us a discount. And even when we come out of isolation, our promo code with them will still exist. Like I said, they just did it out of absolute goodness to give all of our guests 10% off. But if you use PBTP10, you get 10% off with them, and they'll just send their orders out essentially when they're back in business. But a lot of you guys had got those sent in, and some of you were like, oh, I didn't get my order in time before things closed after last Friday. Literally, actually, about 10 minutes after we finished this last Friday, we got, further instructions of, staying inside. So anyways, it didn't stop you guys from creating some pretty clever roundabout ways of holding your paintings up. So I'm going to see if I can get some of the social media stories up again because they're brilliant. You'll see it in a sec. Let's see. That looks delicious. Mm-hmm. All right, so we have somebody painting for the first time. That's awesome. Let's see. All right, nice. And look at this. This is ladders. They're painting on a ladder. How funny is that? Oh, and that's Champ in the background, obviously. That's the multiple paintings in 1 week or throughout the last 3 weeks. Hair dryer. Nice. I love it. That's brilliant. And I absolutely love seeing people painting for the first time and seeming to enjoy it, taking it very seriously. So it's no joke, I suppose. That's great. We absolutely love seeing that. And as I said, send in your stories. We want to know who you're painting with, how you're finding it. Is it your first time? Have you been to all of our events? We want to know because it's so brilliant. So we're going to give everyone just a few minutes to catch up. And once we do that, we'll have a few last words with you guys. So take your time, and as you're painting, just remember all the tips that Jill was talking about, especially at the bottom, kind of having the flowers go in the downward diagonal, and it'll give it a nice sense that you're following the road.
Okay.
All right. So hopefully your paintings are kind of coming together now. And as we said, as you're painting, don't be afraid to pause it. This might take you the rest of the night. You might be finishing it tomorrow morning. That's fine. You're welcome to take as long as you want, or you might be like, I finished an hour ago. What are you talking about? It's kind of fun to see everybody painting at their own pace. So take your time. And as you guys know, each week we're doing this completely free. We want it to be a fun thing for you guys to look forward to. Next week is actually Easter weekend, so our team is going to be taking off next Friday, and then we'll be back the following Friday. We're still going to have tickets go live tomorrow. And as well, my absolute favorite part of doing these virtual events is still the group photo. And even though obviously we're far apart, we can't do it together, we want you guys to send us your photo, your finished photo. Do a selfie with the group you're with, or send in just your photo, have your dog next to it. We love seeing it all. And definitely send us in your photos. And then I'd say either tomorrow or Sunday, what we do is we piece it together, and that becomes this massive group photo. Because again, hundreds of you signed up tonight, which we're completely blown away with, right, Jill? Isn't it? It's unspeakable how many people sign up for these events. We're, speechless, literally.
Yeah, so thankful.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys are incredible. So I would leave you on this note. These events are completely free. They're fun for you, for your family, for your kids, for your boyfriend, girlfriend, mom, dad, everyone painting for the first time. The only thing we ask is that you then pay it forward, and that can mean calling Granny to check in, calling Grandpa, dropping groceries for somebody. It could be donating to your favorite charity, literally any good deed at all. We just want to pay it forward. So, times are tough right now, and we're in it together apart, as they say. So definitely, if you are paying it forward, let us know what you're doing. We want to hear your stories. We want to see your stories. So send us a picture, send us your name and maybe who you're isolating with, and just why you're choosing to join Paint by the Pints, anything about your story. Because again, we're going to be doing a series starting next week of kind of all your stories and all the fun background behind each of these events, because I know our team enjoys seeing them, but it'd be great to be able to share it with the wider audience, especially our Paint by the Pints community. Oh, without you guys, we'd be lost. So thank you so much for joining us again tonight. And what we're going to do is we're going to leave the chat open, even though you won't be able to see or hear Jill and I. We're going to leave the chat open for another 10 minutes so you guys can continue to ask questions. And then once that closes, if you still have questions, you can message us on Instagram or email us, paintbythepints@gmail.com. Thank you. Thank you guys so much. Jill, I'll let you sign off as well.
Thank you, everyone, and have a great evening. And I cannot wait to see all of your work. And
Yes,
don't forget to sign up.
absolutely. All right. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Thank you.